Oh, do you know what wrestling show of the WWE's that I watched this week, Brian? I was going to surprise you with this, and then I surprised you with this.
I didn't watch any. I'm assuming you watched Raw to see what Triple H is up to.
Well, I was going to do that because on my DVR, I had NXT and I had Raw. And I had the one day before the contractor started watching again where I had a little peace and quiet. And I said, all right, I'm going to sit down and go through these shows. I'm not going to just break it down minutely. I'm going to just zip through and see if somebody or something can catch my eye, that there's a little hope. There's, just a little. I said I wasn't going to rush them. But I watched NXT and I got so, I not interested ain't the word. I couldn't believe some of the things that I was seeing, and I had to see some more of it to make sure. And by the time that I realized I'd watched the whole thing, I started with NXT because it's 2 hours instead of 3, but it felt like 10 hours. And after that, I didn't want to see any of Raw. But just in case you'd like to know what they've done to NXT, I don't know if this will take a long time. I'll tell you what I saw. That won't take long. You try to explain it to me. That'll take a little longer. Nikita Lyons is still there. You remember Nikita.
Yeah.
She's expanding even more. And I'm not saying she's fat, but she's expanding everywhere. She's keeping her perfect shape. It's just all getting bigger. But she beat Kiara Jones or Kiara. I can't read my own writing. Somebody. Then Roderick Strong, poor fella, is still there. He was the leftover Undisputed Era member that wasn't able to escape. And he's mad at Apollo Creed. What is that his name? Apollo Creed? No.
Yeah, that was Rocky's opponent.
Apollo Crews. That's why I wrote Apollo Creed. I'm what the fuck? No, wait a minute. I see there's a brother tag team named Creed. And he's mad at the Creeds for watching film with Apollo Crews. That's what my notes say. And the Creeds are mad about something too. And they're backstage, they're watching game films on an old-fashioned wall projector. Right? I don't know where they got this. Maybe they raided a fucking audiovisual lab from an elementary school in 1987. And all this was scripted word for word. Roddy at one point arguing with Apollo Crews wasn't bad, but everybody on his program mostly says it's just recitation. When you try to get inexperienced wrestlers acting and give them scripts, it's abysmal. And this is the proof of it. And then this was a running thing through the entire show. Lash Legend is standing there with Malik Blade and Idris Enough, and she's just blathering at him and, going on. And they don't know what she's saying, and they're kind of rolling their eyes, and she's blathering on, and they cut her off each time, the camera people. And then this was the big thing. They had a rounds match. Brian, you know the rounds match. You see them all the time.
Like in England, World of Sport?
Well, you would have thought that, but no. It was Trick Williams. You remember Trick. He's Bout It.
Okay, I don't remember him, but okay.
Well, he's Carmelo Hayes' friend.
All right.
And Carmelo introduced Trick and said Trick is Bout It. And that's what he has on his boxing trunks, is Bout It. Because Trick Williams is wrestling Wes Lee. Wes Lee was the other half of the MSK team that had the other guy had the prison tattoos and the bad haircut and got fired because his wife got mad at him for asking for a divorce and revealed the picture of him dressed as Adolf Hitler with a mustache. So this ain't him, that's his partner, Wes Lee. So the rounds match opens up, and there they are. Trick is wearing boxing trunks, and they're both wearing boxing gloves. And the announcers, the first thing they say is, this is not a boxing match. And the rules of a rounds match are there are 6 3-minute rounds with a 20-second rest period in between rounds. But you can score a pinfall by pin, submission, or countout. And regardless of what time in the round, if you score a fall, that ends the round. And to win the match, you got to win 2 falls, but a knockout wins it immediately. Are we clear on that?
I don't know if I'd use the word clear, but okay.
So Trick is about 6 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier than Wes Lee. And even though the announcers said it was not a boxing match, when they ring the bell, they're both wearing boxing gloves and they start having a boxing match. And the announcers say again, but now this is not a boxing match. It's almost like when every once in a while you'd find a state athletic commission that regulated boxing but not wrestling. So if you wanted to have a gimmick boxing match on a wrestling show, you'd have to say it wasn't boxing, or else I don't know. So Trick is doing slow-mo swings and misses. And both guys, it's not easy for even experienced wrestlers to work boxing matches. Part of it is that that's not their skill set. Part of it is it's harder to work straight punches to the face, even with gloves on, and especially with your fist not closed inside the glove. That's an easier thing to work, but this was so fake it looked like 2 drunks in a swimming pool trying not to drown. I wrote in capitals fake, horribly fake. And so basically they box like 2 stumble bums and expose the whole business for the first 3-minute round. Then when that round is over with, they take the gloves off and they start having a wrestling match. And it was just as sloppy and almost as fake. And then Trick won a fall and they go to the break. And in the break, he put 1 boxing glove back on. So when they came back to the match from the break, he was throwing fake punches at Wes Lee with the gloved hand that like it would hurt worse than a bare fist, like it was loaded. And again, Trick, horrible with the fake swings and the slow-mo swings, and he's swinging at the guy he wouldn't have hit him if he was 7 feet tall. And then they go to the 4th round, and Lee pins Trick. So now they're 1 fall apiece, but as soon as Lee gets the pinfall, Trick knocked Lee out with a left with the glove with 1 punch. He's been hitting him with bare-knuckle punches, but when he hits him with the glove, he goes down like he's been shot. And then in round 5, they take the gloves off again and go back to bad wrestling. And part of this is that these guys are too green to be on national TV. A training program, a developmental program ought to be on local TV. We've said that a million times. But this was embarrassing for any 2 guys who call themselves athletes, that you couldn't suck it up and say, okay, we're going to throw punches to the midsection with a little steam to them, even when we're wearing boxing gloves and we don't have to clench our fist. Or we're going to hit hard in safe places, or I'm taking my headset off. Brian, this is the sound of my bare fist hitting my own neck if you got your fist clenched properly and not tightly. Or they can just fucking swing at each other like a goddamn couple of paraplegic epileptic seizures in fucking motion. And then Lee hit like 20 times with his fists and then put the glove on and knocked the guy out again with 1 punch. 1, 2, 3. Aren't you sorry you missed that? Aren't you jealous now?
No. The Mets are a much better wrestling show than NXT.
I'll agree with you there, and I've never even watched it. So then Andre Chase, remember one of the Bravado brothers is Andre Chase. He's in his easily early 30s now, but he's supposedly a college kid wearing a Letterman's sweater from Chase University, and he's at his teacher's desk, and there's two of the girls acting like kids in the principal's office doing scripted material with bad acting. This was Glow level bad. This was, we're just going to be bad on purpose level bad. And then Carmelo was in the ring, and he's mad at Wes Lee for cheating Trick. And then he did a promo about his open challenge that he made for the North American title last week. Nathan Frazier, Plowboy Frazier's illegitimate son, I guess. Nathan Frazier did not win last week. And then suddenly Nathan Frazier music plays, but before whoever the fuck Nathan Frazier is comes out, Giovanni Vinci was in the ring behind old Carmelo and startled him. Didn't attack him from behind, just showed up behind and did some scripted verbiage about wanting Carmelo next week. And this Giovanni Vinci is about as exciting as watching a wart grow. And this went a while verbally, and then suddenly, just I guess because somebody gave him the cue to, they broke into a tumbling routine where they each tried to do shit and kind of countered it before the referees ran in and separated them, and nobody ever took a bump, and the crowd was sitting on their hands. And this is only the few hundred friends and family that they let into this thing, and they still couldn't get them up. But one of the reasons I wanted to see NXT was because not only Braun Steiner, who is the future of wrestling whenever they get him out of this fucking acid dream, but I've heard that he has got a new rival, a guy named J.D. McDonough. And I thought, okay, I've never heard of this guy, but I know they change everybody's names. I have no frame of reference what he looks like, and apparently they're hot and heavy with each other. J.D. McDonough was supposed to be a guy that cut some spooky promos, but I'm thinking, okay, with him and Braun Breaker and they're doing some physicality, this guy's going to look like something, right? Have you ever seen J.D. McDonough?
I don't think so. I mean, all these names, as you're rattling them off, they all just, none of them stick. None of them seem special. Yeah.
But also, you would probably not have seen J.D. McDonough unless you are used to driving past your local New Jersey elementary school at recess. Brian, I saw J.D. McDonough. And he's an Irish fellow. I don't mean to insult our friends and Cult of Cornette members across the pond, but this is another, he looks like he's 16 years old. He gets carded buying bubble gum. He might be 175 pounds. And they've got videotape out of him kicking the shit out of Braun Steiner. And he's got the I love pain and I'm a psycho weirdo gimmick. Almost like if they did a Little Rascals reunion and one of the Little Rascals was supposed to play the John Moxley part, but he's a child. That's what it sounded like. He looks like a 13-year-old juvenile delinquent standing up in fucking child court. So, and then Thea Hale with Andre Chase wrestled the girl in blue. I can't remember what her name was. And those the girls from the principal's office. And this was a girls' match from wrestling school. And then Solo Sikoa. Remember we said, well, he knows what he's doing. He's a pretty good worker. He's hurt. I'm not laughing because he's hurt. I'm laughing because why can't these other people that can't fucking stick their thumb in their ass on the first try get hurt instead of all the people we'd like to see? And Cameron Grimes now is walking around with a neatly trimmed beard and his hair pulled and slicked back and a nice set of dress clothes on and looks fairly mopey. So they've taken all the shit that made him stand out away from him. Apollo Crews wrestled Roderick Strong. And I don't know why Apollo got sent from the main roster down to detention, but this was the best opponent to give him. Roderick Strong is the best worker that NXT has left. And he's fucking fabulous. And I wish this in Ring of Honor. If he was 6 inches taller and 30 pounds heavier, he could be a goddamn world champion. Especially with a good manager, because his promo still his weak point. But he was feeding Apollo Crews shit. Not only was he feeding Apollo Crews properly, but he was putting himself in some of the holes. Because Apollo wasn't quite as quick on the pickup as Roddy was. When one time he fed him his arm and he had it there for like a second and a half. And he's, well, fuck, he's not going to take it. So he just reversed the thing on his own. But it was great. The size difference was plausible because of Roddy's technique. He wrestled the bigger guy down. He was trying to break down the legs or pick an arm. He's serious and stiff. There wasn't things see-through. Even the grappling, trying to get a hold or twist an arm, Roddy he makes it seem plausible. And he got some good heat, and Crews is not bad, and he sold well. And finally, Crews made a comeback. It was elementary, but it worked, and hit a blockbuster and got a 2 count. And now the people that were sitting on their hands previously are going, this is awesome, because they're finally seeing a wrestling match. And finally, they traded a couple of 2 counts. And finally, they were, going back and forth. And Crews hit a big something, whatever the fuck they call the move. 1, 2, 3. It was refreshing because it was a wrestling match that you could actually take seriously amongst 2 guys that looked like athletes. And there was no goddamn round off cartwheels into a fucking shooting, flying space tiger press. But then...
God, this is brutal. How do you watch this? I can't think when you're talking about it.
It became morbid with me. I was like, I can't believe this is all on the same program. Lash Legends was still droning at the other guys when Pretty Deadly came in, the tag team of Pretty Deadly. One's a brunette, one's a blonde. They've got purple, tight body form-fitting outfits with purple fishnet and what looks like a purple sports bra. They're guys, by the way. They look like the Nelson brothers, if one of them was a brunette. And then apparently, I'll wait to talk about the showdown. They had a preface to it, a tease to make sure we stay tuned. There were 2 more women's tag teams with unpronounceable names and a big Indian guy. I'm not talking about a Cherokee Indian, but a Great Khali Indian guy with a man bun. And they were reading lines to each other backstage. The Creeds were still watching the match films on the projector, and Roddy is hot that they didn't come out and help him. But they've found a problem on the tape that they've just seen, and they got to look at it again, but they were intimating that it was going to cause trouble for Roderick Strong. And then, do you remember Tony D'Angelo, the mob guy?
Well, I wouldn't call him that. But...
Well, the guy from an organization whose existence has never actually been proven.
Well, I'll just say that if that organization did exist, this guy did not seem like he'd be a legitimate member in any way. It was so hokey.
Well, yes, but the pretend fellow, he has apparently the Stooges, but they fired one of them who showed up on AEW. But then there's also old Pablo Escobar. Remember, he was the leader of the Lucha Suits. And he had a Lucha faction that was mad at the mob, in quotation marks, faction. So apparently they had a match where the mob lost. No. Wait a minute. The mob lost to the cartel. The Italians lost to the Hispanics. So the Italian mob was having to work for the Mexican cartel. But Escobar and D'Angelo decided to have a sit-down, a meet-up in a park at night alone. As a matter of fact, we know this because Escobar in his car was on a cell phone saying, yeah, I'm going by myself, but be close in case something goes down. So they are trying to, on NXT television, with actors the level of a high school drama class, they're trying to reenact the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa here. They show up at night in the park in front of a fountain, and there's a long table with a black tablecloth and 2 chairs that just happen to be sitting there with dramatic background music. And Brian, this fulfilled the writers' fantasies of doing mob movies. It was unbearable. Now we've joined bad acting with amateur screenwriting. And it was long. But next week, the bottom line is there's going to be a match. If Pablo Escobar loses, he will leave NXT forever. But if Tony D'Angelo and Tony gets to keep Pablo's stooges, right? But if he wins, if Pablo wins, then his group is free of D'Angelo. And it's a street fight. I was slack-jawed that they would think that this is something that they should present on a wrestling program or any other program. But that was followed up, Brian, by Tiffany Stratton. Remember the blonde daddy's girl, the rich, the one they basically gave Taya Valkyrie's gimmick to after they ran her off, but this girl can't do it as well. And she doesn't have a cute puppy. So she walks down a hall, sees her dressing room, her name's on the door. She goes in the door. And when she closes the door, Wendy Chu is behind her with night vision goggles. And Wendy Chu flips the lights off, and it's dark, and you hear the sound, the horrible noises, the crashing and the banging and the grunting and the groaning. And then she turns the lights back on, and there's Tiffany Stratton down there buried underneath broken items, moaning and groaning, and Wendy Chu takes the night vision goggles off and walks back out of the room. Are you sorry you missed this yet?
No, I'm sorry. I just felt like I chugged a bunch of Beam over here listening to this review.
We're going to get to Beam. We're going to get to Beam later on.
Can I get to it now?
Don't rush the Beam. Pretty Deadly.
That wasn't the end?
That's not the end.
That wasn't... Oh, God.
Pretty Deadly comes out to face Malik Blade and Idris Enough. And did I mention Pretty Deadly looks ridiculous? But they won when the Cowboy team of Briggs and Stratton got involved and a lot of shit happened. And the Pretty Deadly won the match, and then Lash Legend came out and beat up one of the other girls. I don't know who's related to who. And then they had a weird video about how cool that. Remember Toxic Attraction as the girls' tag team champions. Mandy Rose was the leader. I think she was the single girl champion. And then you had Gigi Allen and Jane Wayne Gacy were her tag team cohorts. And they did a video about how cool they are, about how they march to the beat of their own drummer and nobody tells them what to think or how to do or how to dress or whatever this whole bunch of gaga was. And they're sipping cocktails, and one of them had a tattoo somewhere. It just appealing to the young people is apparently what this is trying to do. It was like a parody video on South Park. Like, remember when they renovated, they gentrified the area of South Park around Kenny's house, and it was Soto Sopa. And then the shitty pa of town. It was like a parody video. It's something you would see as an advertising fucking campaign for their new vodka or something. And they're heels. They're not supposed to be cool. And then Cora Jade wrestled Zoe Stark in the television main event. And Zoe Stark won. Then Roxanne Perez chased Cora Jade off with a kendo stick. Mandy Rose tried to attack Zoe, but Stark hit her finish on Mandy, and they went off the air. And I wrote in summation, is this the worst wrestling show I ever saw? So we're going to give Triple H a couple more weeks. A couple more weeks for Triple H. And I'm telling you, I don't know, it's a Lifetime movie over in AEW where the Cucamonga kids and their cohorts are having conversations that grown adult men don't have. And over here, it's like we're appealing to 13-year-olds on fucking Twitch. But the 13-year-olds are better actors. And no, I tell you what, I didn't need my beam at that point, Brian, because I was already about ready to go to sleep. All I was thinking of, to be quite honest with you, was what in the world am I going to do when I wake up from this sleep to get the bad taste out of my mouth? Now you know where I'm going, don't you?
I sure do, and I need to wake up, and I know when I wake up in the morning, I know exactly the first thing I want to do every day.
That's right, and after I take that morning Russo, I immediately go down to the kitchen, and I sit down and I get me a bowl, or possibly even a trough out, or a feed bag that I could just tie around my neck and walk or wander around the house with it all morning with my magic spoon in there. And that way I can just, every once in a while, if I want a bite, I can just stick my head down in that old feed bag and just start chewing. And it's good. Your tongue will smack your brains out at the good tasting cereal that you will taste when you taste the Magic Spoon. Folks, we've been so in love with Magic Spoon for so long because it's not like ordinary cereal, everyday run-of-the-mill cereal that you find laying around most people's houses or even in some homeless encampments. You find that kind of cereal everywhere because it's cheap and it's not good for you. It may taste good, but it'll kill you. It'll kill you 1,000,000 times.
Stop it, no.
It'll ruin your insides. You got the sugar, you got the carbs, you got all the additives and the preservatives and things and such that you shouldn't be putting in your body because your body is God's temple. Come to think of it, all the different people that God has sacrificed at his temple over the years in the sake of maintaining his grip on power, maybe we better stay out of that temple. That's dangerous too, but you need to take care of your body. So what you do is when you get the Magic Spoon, it tastes great, just like the sugary cereals, but they've spent the time to perfect the crunchy texture. They've developed an astounding variety of flavors that always hit the spot. Whatever spot you got, it'll hit it. Right spot, G spot, makes no difference. You're getting your spot hit. And it's got that sweet, crunchy texture that you love from childhood, but it's healthy. And whether you want to pour the milk on it, or the Sprite Zero, or the coffee, and that way you can have your coffee and cereal at the same time, it's always good. And they're packed with protein. It's a great healthy snack for just about anybody, whether after a workout, during a hike, or at midnight, late at night when you're watching a movie, or maybe you do it while, like Brian Last does, while I'm doing these spots, you mute your microphone and you just stick something in your mouth and swallow it.
You knew I was doing
Regardless, I knew you were doing that.
Well, it's delicious. I'm always eating Magic Spoon.
That's right, 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, only 4 to 5 net grams of carbs in each serving. Let me do the math for you, folks. That's not much. Not much at all of the bad stuff and plenty of the good stuff. It's low carb, keto friendly, gluten free, grain free, soy free, and only 140 calories a serving, whether you slide down that nostalgia road with cocoa, fruity, frosted, or peanut butter, or whether you go for the cult favorites like the blueberry muffin, the maple waffle, and the honey nut for that smoky, syrupy finish. Everybody likes a good finish all over your cereal. Or you can indulge yourself with cookies and cream and cinnamon roll. All you got to do is go to magicspoon.com/Jim to grab a custom bundle of that cereal. Try the magic for yourself, and be sure to use the promo code Jim at checkout. You'll save $5 off your order of Magic Spoon. And again, they've got the 100% happiness guarantee. All you got to do is eat a bowl of this happiness. Eat a bowl of this cereal, and you'll be deliriously happy for about 6 to 8 hours till the chemicals wear off. But it's a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. But you have to call them within 6 hours after you eat the cereal to ask for the refund before the drugs wear off. Anyway, remember to get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 off, and you will have no guilt. You can get away with anything. You can do anything and sleep at night. You won't lay awake feeling guilty for all the horrible things you've done to other people, because this cereal will take it all away. Guilt-free cereal, Magic Spoon.